another one bites the dust.
Back in 1980, Queen released a track that didn't sound like anything they'd done before. No soaring guitar solos, no layered harmonies, just a tight, funky bass line and some strange lyrics about a guy named Steve. Most of the band wasn't sure it even belonged on the album, let alone released as a single. But then, someone unexpected stepped in and changed everything. That track? Another One Bites the Dust. That voice of reason? Michael Jackson. And the man behind it all? Not Freddie. Not Brian. But John Deacon, the quiet, reserved bassist most fans barely knew. This is the real story behind the song that turned Queen into a crossover phenomenon. And why it worked. Like stories that go behind the music? Hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. When most people think of Queen, they picture Freddie Mercury's wild charisma or Brian May's signature guitar tone, but John Deacon? He was the guy in the background, always calm, barely said a word in interviews, and rarely sought the spotlight. Yet without him, one of Queen's biggest hits would have never existed. Deacon joined Queen in 1971 as the final member. He was young, soft-spoken, and painfully shy. While the rest of the band were larger than life, John was more interested in staying out of the way and making sure the music worked. He once admitted he felt like an outsider for years. Just in case things didn't pan out with the band, he studied electronics. This wasn't a guy chasing fame. Music to him was a side hustle, at least at first. But behind that quiet demeanor was someone always observing, learning, and eventually contributing in a big way. Freddie Mercury, of all people, saw potential in him, not just as a bassist, but as a songwriter. Over time, Deacon started bringing songs to the table. You're My Best Friend, I Want to Break Free, Spread Your Wings, Friends Will Be Friends. And then, in 1980, he walked in with something entirely different. He just called it a groove. The story of Another One Bites the Dust doesn't start in a rock club. It starts in a funk groove. In 1979, John Deacon found himself hanging around the legendary Chic at their studio. He was fascinated by their track Good Times. The bass line, the rhythm, the space it created. It wasn't just catchy, it was alive. And John, who rarely said much, was listening closely. He wondered, what if I wrote a funk song for Queen? That was a bold idea. Queen was known for rock anthems and operatic drama, not dance floor swagger. And in 1979, disco wasn't exactly cool anymore, at least not in rock circles. But John didn't care. He started scribbling ideas while the band was on a break in England. He imagined something different, something groovy. His early lyrics, inspired by old westerns. Believe it or not, Another One Bites the Dust originally had a cowboy theme. Deacon later admitted the first version of the song was full of silly cowboy lines, each verse ending with someone biting the dust in some gunslinger-style scenario. But once he brought the idea into the studio, everything changed. The bass line hit harder than he expected. It wasn't campy or light, it was dark, tight, funky. And those cowboy lyrics suddenly felt out of place. So he scrapped them. The groove had found a new identity, and so had the song. One line stuck from those early cowboy scribbles. Another one bites the dust. It was a phrase lifted straight out of old Western films. But now it had a different weight. It didn't sound like a showdown anymore. It sounded like something darker, colder, realer. So Deacon rewrote the lyrics completely. What emerged was less of a story and more of a mood, a gritty, emotional breakdown in 3 acts. Act 1. Steve walks wearily down the street. Act 2. He's abandoned, angry, betrayed. Act 3. He warns. There are many ways to hurt a man. But here's the thing. No one really knew who Steve was. The band never asked, and Deacon never explained. Was it a metaphor? A breakup? A revenge fantasy? A shot at someone in the press? Even drummer Roger Taylor later admitted, "We didn't really get it." But they didn't have to. Because while the lyrics remained cryptic, the groove was undeniable. And that, everyone understood. What makes Another One Bites the Dust so addictive isn't just the bass line. It's the way everything else gives it room to breathe. It's deceptively simple, but there's a method behind it. John Deacon built the track using a technique musicians now call rhythmic contrast. The bass line is rhythmically complex, syncopated, slightly off-center, but the drums? Dead simple, straight, and steady. That contrast creates pocket, a groove you can feel in your chest, but never quite predict. Deacon was laser-focused on the vibe. He insisted that Roger Taylor deaden the drums with tape, something Roger hated. He even used a basic drum loop for the finger snap sections, something rare for a rock band at the time. And while most singers avoid stepping on a bass rhythm, Freddie Mercury did the opposite. He mimicked it, locking in with Deacon's groove until it felt like voice and bass were one machine. Freddie didn't just sing the song, he danced through it. And that's how a funk experiment turned into one of the tightest grooves ever laid to tape. Ironically, the track's tempo, 110 beats per minute, is now used in CPR training. It's the perfect rhythm for chest compressions. Most instructors say to think of Staying Alive, but others prefer Another One Bites the Dust. Another One Bites the Dust wasn't just a hit, it was a risk. A musical left turn from a band best known for operatic harmonies, guitar solos, and arena rock. And yet, it became their biggest song ever. It topped charts around the world. It broke Queen into R&B radio and the black club scene in America, something no one, not even the band, saw coming. In New York, young guys on the street called out to them, "You guys are bad!" Freddie wasn't sure if that meant good or bad, but it meant respect. They tried to recreate the magic on 1982's Hot Space, an album loaded with funk and disco, but fans didn't follow. It was too much, too soon. Only years later would that record earn a cult following. Still, Another One Bites the Dust stands alone. It was born from the mind of the band's quietest member and brought to life by its loudest. Deacon wrote it, Freddie bled for it, and Michael Jackson believed in it before anyone else. A song that could have stayed buried on side B. Instead, it rewrote the rules and Queen's place in music history. Sometimes, the quiet ones really do write the loudest hits.